Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Paper Wishes Weekly Webisodes. I'm Sarah Newman, and I'm excited to bring you another episode of Mixed Media, The Paper Wishes Way. This week, we're going to continue our journey into gilding, and we're going to use the Silver Moon Gilding Flakes kit from Creative Expressions. This includes a pot of silver gilding flakes, a sponge, which I've cut in half here, and a tube of the flake and glitter glue. Now, you can save your glue for another day, because what we need this time is extra sticky tape on rolls and also on sheets. Now, this is going to allow us to create beautiful gilded designs on our pattern paper, as well as beautifully gilded die-cut embellishments. This is probably the easiest gilding technique I know of, and I'm so excited to share it with you here. I'm really glad you're joining us for this fun series, so come play with us. We'll explore two different gilding applications today, and you can see both of them on this card. First, you'll notice the silver stripes I have going on my pattern background paper, and also my die cuts. I have these beautiful butterflies, as well as this really intricate sentiment here. So you'll get very, very different looks, all with the help of double-sided adhesive. Let's begin with our stripes here. I'm going to move aside my card and bring in my pattern paper so I can show you this set. Now, the papers I'm using today are from the Lavinia Dreamscapes Colorburst collection. These are 8x8 double-sided pattern papers. They're absolutely beautiful, and they're a nice sturdy weight, so they're perfect for this technique as well. So I'm going to bring in just a small piece of this beautiful pattern paper, which I'll demonstrate with. I also need to have, of course, my extra sticky tape. Now, these come in two widths. We have a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch, and I'm going to be using the 1/4 inch today. Now, I also need to have my gilding flakes. You'll remember from previous gilding webisodes that you'll have a 20 milliliter pot of flakes. You'll also have an applicator. I normally cut my applicator in half, so then that way I have 1/2 to use as my burnishing tool and another half to use later when I'm working with the specialty adhesive. So that's why I have a smaller piece than what you'll see in your kit. Now, these flakes are going to go a long, long way, even as we're covering quite a lot of surface area here. So what I'm going to do is take my double-sided tape. I'm working onto a craft sheet just to make sure things don't get too messy. And I'm going to pull off a bit of this tape. I just use my scissors to cut this. I do recommend that after a while you use a baby wipe or some kind of adhesive remover just to make sure that your blades stay clean. Okay, so I've just popped down my tape on here. Before I remove this liner, I'm going to place a piece of scrap paper right underneath, and that's just going to help me funnel any excess gilding flakes right back into the pot, kind of like embossing powder. Now, one thing to know is that gilding flakes are very lightweight, very, very thin, and they can fly around a lot. So you do want to make sure that you close your windows, turn off the fan or the air conditioning, and maybe try not to sneeze or laugh too much because they can really go anywhere. Okay, I'm going to pull off my liner on here and just apply my gilding flakes right onto the sticky portion of my tape. Now, you can use your hands as I'm doing. You can use tweezers if you want to as well. Whatever works for you. I'm just going to pop this down on here. It's looking a little messy, but that's okay. So I'm tack this down on here. And then I can take my applicator and burnish my flakes. And this is really going to work the flakes into the adhesive and make sure that I don't have any sticky areas exposed. And then what I can do is just use my copier paper to funnel all of my excess flakes right back into the jar. But I think you can see that beautiful stripe of silver moon gilding on here. It is so very easy to do. This is all you need to do. Pop down your tape, add your gilding flakes, and burnish. It is the easiest and probably the least messy way to get a beautiful gilded effect. Taking another look at our card, you can see that I've done the tape gilding technique on my background, and I'm using both the 1/4 inch and the 1/2 inch wide tapes, and I've just adhered them at an angle, done my gilding, and then trimmed off the excess, even with the edge on here. It's a great way to add some subtle texture and a little bit of shine to your cards. You'll also notice the gilded die cuts. I have this intricate sentiment, and I've also got these beautiful intricate butterflies. Now these are also done with double-sided adhesive, but instead of tape, I'm using double-sided adhesive sheets. Now these are sticky sheets. They measure 8 1/4 by almost 11 3/4. They are ideal for die cutting, and they're perfect for a gilded effect. Now you'll notice on one side you've got a grid pattern printed onto the liner, which means that it's really easy to trim this down to use just the right amount that you need. Now I'm going to be using a very small amount, so I've just trimmed this down. I don't want anything to go to waste. All I need to do is make sure that my piece is just a little bit bigger than my cutting die. And the butterfly that I'm using is from the Wreath for All Seasons set. So what I'm doing is just making sure that this is slightly larger than my cutting die. And I'm going to remove just this checked liner on here and expose one side of the sticky sheet. This is the tricky part, is just getting that liner sheet off. Okay, so I've exposed one side of the sticky. And what I'm going to do is just grab a piece of scrap cardstock. This is just from my stash. Doesn't matter what color it is, but just something that will give a little bit of sturdiness to my cutting die. I'm going to pop this down, and then I'm going to trim off the excess here. But I'm going to leave a little bit that is going to be kind of like a handle, just something that I can hang on to while I'm doing my gilding. And I'm going to pull off this portion of the liner. So now I'm exposing my sticky part on here. So now back to our gilding. Of course, I need to bring back in my folded piece of scrap paper here and my gilding flakes and my applicator. So I'm all ready to go. And all I need to do is just add my gilding flakes right onto that sticky portion here. So I'm just going to tap this down. And then what I can do is start to use that scrubby sponge to burnish my flakes right onto my piece. And again, just kind of tap off any excess. I'm going to try and poke all of these back into the jar before they go flying away, because of course these can all be reused. So hang in there with me while I just funnel this back in before it flies everywhere. Make sure the lid is back on your jar before doing anything else. And there you can see I've got my beautiful gilded piece. Really, really pretty. So now the next portion of the technique is to take your cutting die, pop it down on here, and run it through your die cutting machine. Now I usually like to use a little bit of masking tape to hold this down. Run it through your die cutting machine, and then you will have your gilding piece in here. And what I like to do is just use a pokey tool of some kind to pop out the elements here. So you can remove any of the little pieces in here. And then you can reveal your beautiful butterfly. And gently pull this out, and there you have it. Beautiful, delicate, and very, very intricate, but just take a look at that detail on here. It is absolutely gorgeous. So you can see it does work for very, very detailed designs. And not only the butterfly, but also that sentiment too that you can see on my card is also quite detailed, and it turned out beautifully. Now you may be asking, do you have to do the cardstock portion of this step? Can you not just put the adhesive onto, or put the gilding flakes onto the adhesive? You can. I tried that at first because I thought that would be a great way to go. But what I found is that you will then have, here's one of my failed experiments, you will then have a very detailed, very wispy piece that is easily sticking to itself because it doesn't have that cardstock kind of weight to it that's holding it stiffly. So it ends up kind of looping around and sticking onto itself, and it became a little bit problematic. So I just found it was easier and less frustrating to simply use that cardstock, something to give a little bit of body to this, and then I can simply glue my pieces down onto the front of my card. And it even allows me to create some dimensional effects like with this butterfly here. So let me show you the inside of my card here too. It's so easy to do that I created lots of butterflies and lots of sentiments. So I've got another butterfly here on the inside of my card and then a sentiment here too. Now this technique works beautifully with silhouette style cutting dies. So let's take a look at that too. For this card, I've also done my gilding stripes going across here on the background of my card. And I have to say, I really found those Lavinia Dreamscapes papers. They were so beautiful and so nice to work with. And they coordinate beautifully with the silver gilding flakes. It really is a perfect match. And it gives you this really nice, subtle shine and dimension and doesn't take away from the main focal area of your card. Super easy to do as well. Now, I've also done some gilding on the sentiment here. Now, this is one of the Creative Expressions die cut sentiments, and actually the original is all one piece. So I've simply cut this into two pieces so that I was better able to fit it onto my oval. And what I love about this die is that you've got the words, you've also got this kind of shadow effect that you can create with the second die in the set. So it's got a combination that's going to give you the ability to create more of a dimensional look. And I've got these two words simply popped up on some foam tape to give extra dimension and lift. And I've also gilded these beautiful leaves that you see here. Now these are also from the Wreath for All Seasons set. And this, as you'll notice, is more of a silhouette style design in contrast to our really intricate butterfly. So great to know that this gilding approach with the extra sticky sheets can create a beautiful look on something that is bolder and more silhouette, as well as something that is very intricate and detailed. Now, when you're looking at my oval, you may notice that I've done some splatter gilding on here. Now, this is one that I've demonstrated in the Mixed Media number 5 webisode on gilding chipboard, and that's going to give you this really pretty soft and subtle spattered look on your background. Super easy to do. And I love that you can mix and match your techniques with your gilding to come together onto one card. Now, speaking of the ovals, these are from the 12 oval and scalloped cutting dies collection. I've used them on both of my cards for this webisode. And I've also got another one here on the inside of my card. This has my invitation details. Now, if you take a look over here in the corner, you'll notice that I've done my silver gilding stripes with some overlapping. So I've simply overlapped the tape to create a checked effect. So this is another thing to keep in mind. You can create all kinds of different patterns, just varying the placement and the width of the tape that you're using. So you can create a plaid effect, you can do lots of different stripes, a checkerboard, you can do frames, and so much more. Keep in mind too that when you're doing your tape, you can also incorporate either the gold or the copper gilding flakes as well as the silver. So you can create a multicolored effect if you wanted to, having maybe one stripe gold, one stripe copper, one stripe silver, and so on. So there are lots of different possibilities for mixing and matching your gilding flakes as well. So with today's webisode, we have built upon our knowledge of gilding techniques with probably one of the easiest ways to add this beautiful look to our cards, and I hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for being a part of the Paper Wishes family. We're so glad that you're here with us. I can't wait to see what you create as you explore mixed media the Paper Wishes way. Do be sure to leave a comment. We love to hear what you think. Each item can be purchased separately and you can see them below. However, we've also bundled them into a creative money saver just for you. For the money saver, just see this webisode on paperwishes.com.